Not so good poverty numbers for Rhode Island still. What do we do about that?
The Dan Yorke State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Takeo Comfort Solutions.
A little bit of a contrast in the news cycle, right? We celebrate a brand new company coming in, laying down 500 jobs that we're paying for. We'll get to that in a second. And then you look at the poverty numbers, which continue to be way too high for the state. I don't have the answers here, but I've got a lot of questions, and I'm hoping that you do. Assuming that you do is dangerous. See, this is kind of where the rubber meets the road. If there's a public interest in solving this problem, there will be a solution. If there's no public interest in solving this problem, well, it just kind of lingers, right? Nice to have you aboard. Thank you very much for tuning in on this Tuesday evening. Andrew Schiff from the Community Food Bank here in Rhode Island is my guest this evening, and he'll kind of explain what these reports and data the data on this problem say. Sorry for cheating. Let me just start, though, with we haven't poked any fun at the president in a while here, but this is absolutely unavoidable.
You were here long before any of us were here, although we have a representative in Congress who they say was here a long time ago. They call her Pocahontas.
It's like from Pluto, right? And even Sarah Huckabee Sanders, rather than just saying, listen, I don't know why the president said what he said, and maintaining some of her own personal integrity, continues to try to make excuses for it.
I don't believe that it is appropriate for him to make a racial slur or anybody else.
This is a racial slur, so why is it appropriate for him to
Well, I think, like I said, I don't think that it is, and I don't think that was certainly not the president's intent.
Including answers that suggest that, how come you guys aren't asking Elizabeth Warren about her Native American ethnicity, which is something that, by the way, many people asked about, and was kind of like something hanging around her political neck for what, almost a year or two. Warren makes a good point here.
It is deeply unfortunate that the President of the United States cannot even make it through a ceremony honoring these heroes without having to throw out a racial slur.
How do you argue with that? I don't know how you do. Is it really important in the big picture? I don't know anymore, but I think he's losing his fastball. I just do. I just do. That's it. That's all I got for you. Here in Rhode Island, there was big news yesterday on the Infosys company from India, like the country, coming into Rhode Island with 500 jobs to create a kind of an innovation center for their customers. The governor and the boss of Infosys spoke about it.
These are jobs at every level. As he will say, they hire folks with a college degree and folks without a college degree, folks with a credential, folks with a PhD in engineering, and they're planning to train. That's what Infosys is known for, training people.
We want to take Rhode Island to the world by making this a hub for experience, a hub for digital experience, which will be the pivot for transformation for all large corporations.
All right, well, that's all cool stuff. And look, within the framework of the way the Raimondo administration works, it's good news. I just think the framework is faulty. The idea that we pay for companies to come in here, and there are some 22 companies that have come into Rhode Island, according to the Commerce Department, via the efforts of the Raimondo administration, some of which we paid some hefty prices for. And by the way, prorated, this is a whole lot more per employee than the deals that Infosys has made in Indiana and North Carolina. Why we're paying so much for these jobs is curious to me, other than the answer, which is that it's part of the winners and losers game that the Raimondo administration is engaged in here, and the notion that we have to compete with other states and buy jobs. We don't really know exactly how this money is going to be doled out. It's in the form of tax credits and the like, which are transferable, real cash, by the way. Reportedly, they'll be paid based on state income taxes being paid at least for a year by the employees that are hired. But there's no real report or data from the administration as to the specifics on that, and they never offer them. the transparency of the Raimondo administration is only enough to get you the headline and maybe a paragraph. Past that, you just don't get a lot of details. I don't know. I really do believe that if we just created the kind of tax base in this state that made it fertile ground for new companies to choose us, coupled with some deregulation lessening, maybe we would also have some growth from our own retained current companies, right? Obviously, we need to do better in terms of employment. We need to do better in terms of per capita income for our Rhode Island residents, because we have too many folks who are actually working poor. So, I don't know. The contrast is palpable. Here's the headline from yesterday in the Providence Journal. Actually, this is actually a, there you go. There's the headline from the Providence Journal. An editorial, New England's poverty capital. Andrew, come on in here and slide in for me if you would. Nice to have you, the CEO of the Rhode Island Community Food Bank. Thank you for joining me. I don't know if you care to editorialize on the emphasis versus that headline concept, but your headline's not good. Mm-hmm. Not good.
Right.
Right. Talk to me.
I think the headline from our status report is a surprise for folks because it's 8 years since the end of the Great Recession, and we're in an economic recovery. And what we're saying is that high rates of hunger and poverty persist in Rhode Island. And so the report really looks at what's going on.
Well, give me the executive summary, and then we're going to break down some of the data.
So the USDA does a survey, national survey, but they also are here in Rhode Island, and they look at food insecurity. In other words, people's ability to afford adequate food. And we have a growing number of families that are not only reporting that they're food insecure, they can't afford adequate food, but they actually experience periods of hunger. And it's at the highest rate it's been in 10 years. It's over 6%.
All right, the whys we'll get to. Let's look at some of the information here. I know we've got a bunch of report pages that we want to show you. Let's just start with the top one, Eric, and we'll just move right on down if you can. If you can give me some of that. All right. So there's the headline on the report, but give me some pages here. Okay, Rhode Island households reporting very low food security. What does that mean?
Yes. So a number of years ago, the USDA changed the description of this stat from hunger to very low food security, which is fine. It means the same thing. And they're asking the exact same questions that they were asking all the way back in the 1990s. They do the same survey every year. And what we are seeing is that the prevalence of hunger has actually grown in Rhode Island, even though other things are getting better, right? The unemployment rate is down, more people are working. So how come we're having so many households report that they can't afford food and they run out of food? And why is the food bank seeing so many people showing up at food pantries in need of food?
All right, that's another question we have to answer, right? Poverty rates persist in Rhode Island. So I see those numbers from 07 to 16 and a nudge higher, certainly not lower.
Certainly not lower, not back to pre-recession. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of folks don't realize is that we're having folks working at low-wage jobs that leave them officially under the federal poverty level. They're working, this is the working poor in Rhode Island, and I don't feel like they're getting enough help.
Okay, we'll get to that as well. Another piece of information. The need for food assistance remains high. Again, more charts, and explain this one.
So this is the number of people on SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, formerly the Food Stamp Program. And
which isn't helped by the computer problem, correct?
Correct. So what this cuts off in 2016, where we were at about 170,000 Rhode Islanders receiving SNAP benefits. And then in the past year, since the launch of UHIP, there was a big decrease. I think mainly attributable to all the problems with the computer system. But if you look at what was happening up till we had, good, accurate numbers of the people who were eligible back in 2016, it meant that we had that many people who were eligible for SNAP benefits. They applied. They were their income was shown to be below poverty, so they could get those benefits, and a lot of them are working. That's the other thing that folks don't realize, is that SNAP beneficiaries can work and still get that benefit, and they need it.
And one more chart. I guess the lunch, the school lunches certainly are implicated here. So more kids are needy.
Yes, but this is actually a really good story here in the state. Schools have made an extra special effort to make it easier for kids to take part in school lunch and school breakfast. So we have more children getting those meals. Those meals at school are a big, important step in preventing hunger among children. So we're very glad to see for that program that the numbers of participation.
I wonder if some of these kids
up.
are actually thankful to go back to school in September.
Yeah.
Because the summer is tough.
Yeah, I mean, we have teachers who, are so worried about their kids when there's even like a snowstorm and school's canceled, that those kids aren't going to get meals during those few days.
All right, so let's see if we can answer some of the questions that we've both raised, and we come back. Stay with us. It doesn't help to have some complications with a heavy taxpayer investment in a computer system that's supposed to make things easier. The latest Eyewitness News report on that.
Nearly 13% of Rhode Island households are below the poverty level. According to the report, the Rhode Island Community Food Bank says the number of people coming in looking for food has skyrocketed.
We attribute it to UHIP.
Food Bank CEO Andrew Schiff says they are getting new customers who say they haven't been able to get SNAP benefits, commonly known as food stamps. The SNAP applications are processed through the new UHIP computer system that has been glitchy since the beginning. Thousands of applications have been lost, others delayed.
They're coming, many for the first time, because they were on SNAP and suddenly they went to the grocery store, were in line to purchase food, and found out at checkout that they had no benefits on the EBT card.
The prevalence of hunger in the state is the highest it's been in 10 years.
Rhode Island Democratic Senators Jack Reed and Sheldon Whitehouse say proposed federal cuts to SNAP could leave Rhode Island without enough money for all the families who qualify, even when the state starts properly processing SNAP through the UHIP system.
It is frustrating, and I hope that we get the technical, I guess glitches is probably too small a word, but the malfunctions straightened out, because this plan is intended to help people.
It's interesting that, so you got the federal guys, our U.S. senators, complaining just like every pedestrian in Rhode Island is complaining about a computer system the Raimondo administration can't figure out, and now it's going to appoint a special master to try to execute. What's the real life problem on the ground, other than what you had to say in that story?
We knew that the problems were severe all the way back when the UHIP launched. This is now September 2016, so 14 months ago. And for many months, we weren't hearing from the Department of Human Services that there was a problem. It was, referred to as a glitch and that kind of thing. Really, it took until it was really January, February before there was a real admission of how serious the problems were.
Right.
But even then, we didn't think that we would still be here in November and still seeing so many people unable to access benefits. But we are here, and it continues to be a problem at member agencies of the food bank, meaning food pantries across the state. Many new people are coming for assistance, letting us know that it's because they haven't been able to access SNAP benefits.
Are you depleted as a backstop here?
No.
For that population?
No, that has not happened. We're not depleted. We're very, very worried because we're just keeping up. And so this problem has to get fixed. These are benefits that people are eligible for, and we're leaving money on the table because these are federal benefits that state administers, but they're federal benefits that people are entitled to and should be able to get.
Frustration is just boiling over all over the place here. I mean, you can stand on your head screaming that it's got to get fixed, but it's the geeks that know the system that have to fix it.
Well,
and the governor is more or less gone, yeah, a special master, ACLU move on that, yeah, whatever.
Well, I think I disagree a little bit about that. I think that they've taken some steps. They've hired a lot of staff back. Remember, at the time that UHIP was launched, they also laid off tons of staff. So they have hired those staff back. They've established a call center. They have a new director of Department of Human Services, Courtney Hawkins, who I think is really good. And everyone I've met at the Department of Human Services, I have a monthly meeting with folks there, they are committed to making this work again. We just can't underestimate the number of problems that they're dealing with, and it's going to take a while.
Okay, well, I appreciate that perspective. At the same time, you can come in for every monthly meeting that you want to tell them what the reality is on the ground, and I'm sure that they're more than interested in getting this thing fixed, and it drives them crazy too.
Right.
But we're not making a lot of progress, and I don't know what the answer is. I mean, you present a lot of truths that should bother us all, and then when we get to the solutions, there's a lot of I don't know. There's public policy, never mind the mechanics of a computer system. So let's talk about the public policy for just a second. What essentially do you think is the public policy dilemma that keeps this hunger rate so high?
I think that we have programs that work, and we talk about them in the report. School meal, school lunch, school breakfast, those are critical programs. SNAP is a critical program, and so is WIC. If we're able to make sure...
WIC being?
Oh, that's Women, Infants, and Children. So this is another special program, really a program to make sure, first and foremost, that low-income women with young children are getting health care, but also getting appropriate nutrition. So as part of that, folks have a small food benefit, but it's important. And we need to make sure that folks are accessing that program too. If we were really able to maximize participation in those programs, I think we would have the problem solved, really. There wouldn't be a need for the food bank. But there's such a need for the food bank, really, that is a sign that much more has to be done to make those programs effective.
All right, when we come back, we'll talk about how that works. Stay with us. All right, so you're suggesting that if we maximize the services that are available through government, that was a conceptual conversation. You're not thinking that you could be out of a job with a community food bank. Seems to me Jesus said there will always be the poor and the hungry, and you'll always have some role here, correct?
Well, also the political situation right now makes it less likely, because rather than trying to figure out how to make sure that people can get SNAP benefits, the 2018 budget resolution from the House of Representatives called for cuts to SNAP that are enormous. $160 billion over 10 years, what does that mean? That's a third of the program. Right now, Rhode Island receives $270 million every single year in SNAP benefits spent in grocery stores, supermarkets. That would be cut by a third. That's $90 million. So no food bank is going to make up for that kind of devastation.
With that, I don't think that's getting a lot of attention nationally, to be honest with you, in the midst of this entire, budget, government shutdown, a la tax cut dynamic that's going on right now. Is there a prescription for that to the states in terms of how you shave those benefits?
Yes, they're going to, right now it's a national program administered by the states. What they would do is block grant the program, give every state a specific amount of money, and you have to manage it yourself.
So so your own discretion, the state's own discretion.
It seems unlikely, right? But they're also, I mean, if they're going to go through cuts of this magnitude, you know that there's going to have to be people who are tossed off the program. Who would that be? Who are you going to choose? People with disabilities, children, senior adults? Who's going to pick? Who's going to be sliced off this program? But to cut the program by a third, you'd either have to, significantly reduce benefit levels for everyone, or choose a population and just kick them off the program.
Let me see if I understand this. I mean, you made a supposition that if we maximize these programs, we wouldn't have a need for the community food bank. I think there's a little bit of a common sense thinking process there. Are you suggesting that we need to grow these taxpayer-funded programs? That becomes a philosophical, political argument. I was wondering if there was something that, with current funding levels, we could do to increase the efficiency of those programs. Yes or no?
Well, certainly you can with programs like school lunch and school breakfast. There are ways to administer the program that make it much easier to increase participation, make sure that kids are really taking. Well, we've done some of it in some of the schools in Rhode Island. It's easy to make sure that kids who are eligible for breakfast participate if you do breakfast in the classroom, if you have it available right at the beginning of the school day. That's the way to do it. And lots of schools have done it and have shown increases in participation. But the philosophical thing, I think, you know, wouldn't we agree that if somebody was sick and needed to see a doctor, that they should see a doctor regardless of their ability to pay?
Yes.
And so I feel like if someone's hungry and needs food, they should have it regardless of their ability to pay for it, based on their income.
Right. Of course, you get on the radio and you start talking about this with people in the community. You'll hear stories about program abuse and the like, and you know, priorities and what they're buying and what they're eating, and you get some class warfare that gets in the middle of that whole thing, and it gets a little bit messy. I don't think anybody wants to see anybody starve. The question comes to family responsibility, you know, da-da-da. Really, an economy that's working will lift up a lot of these problems, right? Do you have any thought in general, and we only have 30 seconds here, on the way we're approaching growing this economy?
Well, I think if there's pressure on wages and wages increase, that's going to help everybody, and it's going to, you know, raise people's ability to afford the basics of life, and it's going to increase consumption, which will help the economy.
Yeah, I guess you offer a lot of very simple, common sense answers. It reminds me that you've got a job to do.
Yeah.
Feed people.
Right.
I mean, that's what you're in this thing, the whole thing for. Yeah.
Yep.
And thank God you're doing it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Some food for thought. We'll tell you what's next tomorrow. Next. Alrighty, so tomorrow we have the state treasurer joining us. He's got some interesting approaches to all sorts of things, including, I think, adding some confusion to the Paw Sox deal with his recommendations on financing. But there's all sorts of programs right now going on through the treasurer's office and how he is spending our state money and investing our state money that I think are worthy for conversation. So we'll get after that. In the meantime, keep the pressure on your government officials, including the state legislature, which is putting the pressure on the Romano administration to make sure that that program, that computer program, gets fixed, because it seems to be at the core of a lot of our challenges. We'll see you tomorrow at 3 on WPRO on the radio. We thank you for watching, and have a good evening.